Now, Germany, France, and several other European Union countries say they are resuming AstraZeneca vaccinations after the European Medicines Agency, the EMA, said the vaccine is safe and effective. After a review, the EMA concluded that the vaccine was not associated with an overall increase in the risk of blood clots. More than a dozen European countries suspended AstraZeneca vaccinations after some recipients developed clots. Here in Germany, the government and public health authorities have been under fire now for weeks over the sluggish vaccination rollout. Less than 1 in 10 people in Germany has received the first dose of the vaccine. Some say the delays are damaging Germany's reputation for efficiency.
A widespread sigh of relief after the European Medicines Agency declared the AstraZeneca vaccine safe and effective. German Health Minister Jens Spahn called it good news and announced the country would be resuming vaccinations with AstraZeneca.
Our joint goal of the federal government and all 16 states is to start vaccinating again in Germany with AstraZeneca during the course of the day.
Spahn said the EMA's assessment confirms that the German government was right to press pause on AstraZeneca vaccines and await the outcome of the agency's investigations. Doctors will now have to inform patients about the possibility of rare blood clotting disorders, said the head of Germany's Institute for Vaccines.
The committee has found that the risk-to-benefit ratio is still favorable, and therefore vaccinations can continue. However, there will be a warning, and it is important to us that it is a warning that draws attention to the particular symptoms that can occur in very rare cases.
The AstraZeneca shot is essential for the success of Germany's vaccination plan. The rollout has so far been sluggish, especially compared to countries such as Israel and the UK. Only 3.7% of Germany's population has been fully vaccinated, and around 8.4% has received a first shot. The government strategy relies on the uptake of AstraZeneca deliveries expected over the next few months, up to almost 17 million doses in the second quarter of the year. Germany also wants to start vaccinating in doctors' offices by mid-April, a plan that is highly reliant on the AstraZeneca shot being available. The government will now also have to work to ensure that Germans don't lose trust in the safety of the AstraZeneca vaccine. A loss in trust could endanger Chancellor Angela Merkel's pledge to have given all adults in Germany the chance to get vaccinated by the end of summer.
Now, Germany has faced criticism for being slow to vaccinate even before the AstraZeneca shot was paused. DW's chief international editor Richard Walker spoke with Foreign Minister Heiko Maas, who says it is crucial to get more people vaccinated quickly.
It's important that we step up the pace of vaccinations over the next few weeks, because otherwise we'll lose the trust of our own population. That's the most important point for me. Of course, we would have hoped by now to have vaccinated many more people in Germany. But in April and May, we'll have such large amounts of vaccine that the numbers will go up significantly. It's also crucial to fight the pandemic in order to make sure that the hospitals don't get so full of intensive care patients that they can't treat everyone. We have no illusions that the problems that have arisen, the mistakes that were made, have of course a considerable impact on public confidence in governments and authorities in Germany, but also in other countries across the European Union.
In that case, do you see the EU as ultimately responsible for the mistakes that were made when ordering the vaccine?
I think everyone knows that mistakes have been made at every level. It's a process that we hadn't been through before. I hope that we never, ever end up in another situation like we had last year all over the world, and of course, especially in Europe. So yes, mistakes were made at every level, European, national, right down to the regions of individual member states. And we all have to do everything we can to make clear that we have learned from our mistakes.
Right now, many are talking about a systemic conflict between democracy and autocracy. Do you see this as a dangerous example for those who might think the Chinese or the Russian way is better?
I don't think so at all. People in Europe and in other liberal democracies know what the freedom is worth to them. And it's our job to make sure that democracies are in a position not just to deal with a challenge like that, but also to master it. I'm convinced that we will achieve that in the course of this year there will be many examples all over the world that make it clear that it's nonsense to say that an authoritarian regime with all its repressive capabilities can fight a pandemic better than a democracy with freedom and human rights.
Let's bring in our political correspondent, Thomas Sparrow, now. Good morning, Thomas. We heard the Foreign Minister Heiko Maas there saying Germany has to vaccinate quickly. Yet, if we look at what happened with the AstraZeneca shot, that it was suspended and then reinstated, how difficult do you think it'll be to restore confidence in this vaccine?
It'll certainly be very difficult to restore confidence, not only in that specific vaccine, but also in Germany's overall vaccination program, which, as you mentioned, Sumi, has been very slow indeed. One element with which authorities hope to regain at least part of that trust is by presenting more information about possible side effects to those who will be receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine. A second element, and I think this is particularly important, is by making that vaccine available to GPs, to family doctors who can then administer it to their own patients. You know that family doctors have already a relationship of trust with their patients. There's a long-standing relationship there, so that's, in my opinion, where the key can be to actually restore trust, not only on that specific vaccine, the AstraZeneca vaccine, but in general about Germany's vaccination program. It is expected that leaders, both at the federal level and at a regional level, will discuss the exact details of how to make it possible for GPs and family doctors to actually administer those AstraZeneca vaccines and other vaccines, as well as part of this idea to speed up Germany's vaccination program.
Thomas, there is a vaccine summit taking place today. Put this into context for us. I mean, how big a setback is this entire affair around AstraZeneca to the overall rollout here in Germany?
Well, fortunately for German officials, it wasn't a very long setback. It wasn't a very long halt. And this is certainly something that will be positive when it comes to the overall development of Germany's vaccine rollout. But it is indeed a setback. It is indeed a problem. Already German officials have stressed how they plan to move forward specifically in the next few days by, for example, making sure that people who have appointments can actually go to those appointments today, and those who had appointments in the last few days, which had to be cancelled because of the halt, that those appointments can then be followed in the next few days or in the next few weeks. Again, the important element here is that that halt, that temporary halt, was actually a very short one. But it is a question as to what it means for the overall promise that German authorities have made, the overall promise that German Chancellor Angela Merkel has stressed, that every German adult will receive an offer to get a vaccination by the end of the summer, so in the next 6 months. And AstraZeneca, as I've already pointed out, plays a very important role in this overall development and in this very important promise that the German Chancellor has made.
Our political correspondent, Thomas Sparrow. Thank you so much.